Welcome to today's episode of Between Neens and Deens. My name is Nina, and I'm joined by my best friend, partner, and baby daddy, Dejan.
And together, we're a couple of 20-something-year-olds just trying to navigate this whole first-time parenting thing.
So we're laying it all out there and talking about all the things you wish your parents told you about love, sex, and happiness.
So we were reading some of the reviews, and we're just so happy with all the love that we've received on this show thus far. And obviously we want to take everything into account, so we read some of the ones that were kind of like, you know, we have potential, but we kind of go in these tangents every once in a while, and I tend to get interrupted every now and then. I'm not salty about it at all, but I see that some people found that, you know, that was irritating for them while trying to listen. So I guess right now we're going to address some of Nina's toxic behaviors. Nina, would you like to speak some more in regards to this topic here?
You see how I stayed nice and quiet? It's actually so crazy how hard it is, and it's not because I want to interrupt you to dominate the conversation.
Yeah.
What I've realized, and I did a bit of research on this too, because I'm like, why am I like this?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, I mean, first you got sad for a little bit.
Oh, yeah. No, I definitely got sad. I mean, it's hard. Like, even though what I do for work exposes me to criticism kind of 24/7, it always does hit you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it always does. Like, I don't think you ever get to a place where you're like, yeah, just it fully rolls off my back. Like, I think I'm getting to a place where it becomes a little bit faster.
Yeah.
Where I can work through it. But
you need to give yourself that moment to just kind of, yeah, let it hit you for a bit and then go from there.
Yeah, I fully sat in it, and I was sad, and I'm not gonna lie, like, it really made me upset and just really down on myself for probably like the whole weekend. Mm-hmm. Like 2-3 days. And
she kept asking me, like, do I actually interrupt you like, all the time? And I was like, no, I mean, you're fine. It's just like, for me, the thing is, like, I understand the intent and like where it's coming from, but I can see, like, I can agree with, like, that it can be annoying as a listener. So like, it's so hard when you don't interrupt me.
Right? I'm telling you, it's so hard. And the reason why I think I interrupt you a lot, there's a couple reasons, because I can think of a couple different times in which I've done it. Mm-hmm. And usually when I do it, it's kind of to agree with you, and it's to move the conversation, and it's not to deviate from what it is you're trying to say. Like, I'm trying to be like, I hear you, and like, same, or like, yes, totally. Like, I think what people also don't realize is that I personally have more experience like talking and expressing my thoughts, and you know, like, I had my YouTube channel for 4 years, and then Dejan came in like the past like 2-3 years, and even then, like, you're still quite awkward sometimes.
It's tough. It's honestly so tough. It's not easy to talk this naturally and like have all the words that you want to say. For me, I feel like a lot of the words, because I low-key like black out, and then I have them at the tip of my tongue. And I think the reason why I don't get upset with you interrupting me is because I know that you see that I'm struggling, and then you help me either complete the sentence or complete the idea or have the conversation go in the direction that I do want it to go. I just, you know what I mean? It's still like, it's still nerve-wracking in a sense. Like, it's just still like, what am I going to say? You know what I mean? So, yeah, it definitely is quite helpful when you interrupt me.
That's the thing, is that I can see why, you know, like, when we're in the middle of arguments and I interrupt you, I do realize why that's frustrating, because I catch myself and I hear myself when you're saying something, and I'm like, okay, but don't you think? And then it's because you're saying something that I don't agree with, and I can totally see why that's annoying, because I'm not letting you finish your thought. But I feel like most of the time when I'm interrupting you, it's because I see that you're struggling, and I'm like, okay, let me just help you out, because I know exactly what you're trying to say. And it's just us being on that literally, like, the amount of times that me and Dejan complete each other's sentences, not in like a corny way, but we just do, like, we're literally on the same brainwave,
or like sing the same song at like random times.
It's so weird, but I feel like that's why I interrupt, and it's because, like, I'm trying to relate to you. And if I do think about, like, kind of where this came from, like, I didn't used to be like this. I didn't used to be a big talker at all. Growing up, like, I was so quiet, and I'm actually trying to do a lot of work to, like, get back into that version of myself, not like being quiet, but just being kind of at peace and more slow and more soft. And over time, like it was basically when I went to high school, I decided full stop, I'm gonna switch up, I'm gonna become popular, I'm gonna like speak my mind, and I forced myself to be social, to be outgoing, to talk. And also when I was in high school, that was when I like really started to care about school, and my teachers really pushed us to, even if you don't know what you're gonna say, like just raise your hand and let it flow, and like don't be scared of judgment. And in a lot of ways that helped me, and in a lot of ways I think that's why I do kind of interrupt you, and it doesn't stem from like me trying to dominate the conversation. It stems from like a feeling of social anxiety where I'm like, oh, like I don't want to do it, but like let's push yourself, like let's do it. And I guess I'm not always picking up at when somebody is done with their thought, because I'm like, I see what you're saying, yes, let me like keep going on it, you know. And that's my way of being agreeable. And
I totally get that, because I get that not when I speak with you, but when I speak with certain people. And I have like these two friends in particular that I do tend to interrupt, and you actually pointed it out when we just had a friend, like our friends over, and then I guess I see that it comes from excitement, because it's like I'm excited about what they're saying, and like maybe, not to sound rude, but maybe they're not getting there fast enough. So I was like, I'd jump in and be like, nah, you know, like say my piece that adds to the conversation as well. But then there's also that part that's like, which I understand in the form of a podcast, where it's like you have something that you want to say and you know that you don't want to forget it, because if you were to let me continue on a tangent, you'd probably forget what you had to say. Do you know what I mean? So I can understand where it's like, oh shit, I have this that I want to say. So I can understand that you want to jump in, and that's also like a form of excitement, right? Because it's like, it's excitement and then also like fear of like forgetting.
Well, it's that, but it's also like, to be fair, like all these topics that we've talked about in the podcast, except for the ones where I'm like, we've actually never talked about this before, I pretty much know all these things about Dejan. And so when we're telling stories, a lot of times, like I feel like Dejan's like, go, like rushes through all the points, and then he's like, whoa, wait, I forgot, and then goes back. And so I'm like, hey, that's a really messy way of telling a story. So when he's telling a story, I'm like, no, like you forgot this, or like, wait, but also this important detail.
Yeah,
and
I guess
like,
because you know, like you know the details of the story, so it's like, yo, you left that out, that was vital or whatever. So yeah, I totally get that. It's just hard, you know, when you're in a relationship and you just know each other so well.
But I think like that's the thing, is that there's just, I think what I've come to realize is that there's a lot of different versions of interrupting, and even though some of them come out of good intent, I can understand how as a listener it can get frustrating, and sometimes the ones that are not so out of good intent, those ones I can work on. So just know that I am actively working on it. I saw online that some people will write notes, like if it's like, oh, like I really want to say something while you're saying something, then I'll write a note. But I totally would just write a note and then not listen to what you're saying. So I'm just gonna sit with my piece and not think about what I want to say and just let you talk. And there's probably gonna be some awkward pauses moving forward, because
and just relinquish that control though.
Yeah,
because like I feel like even if we miss something that we feel is like really important, like it's not the end of the world. No. Like we can mention it in another scenario or another episode.
Yeah.
But
it can be messy.
Exactly. So right now, as we're talking about it, like I don't want this to come off as we're justifying the fact of like, you know, being interrupted and like interrupting each other, so to speak. But yeah, like we're well aware of it at this point. I mean, once you see it, like when you see a review and people say stuff like that, it's like,
it wasn't just one review.
Yeah, there was what was it? It was a total of 3. It wasn't like a crazy amount, but yeah.
I mean, this is another, I guess this could be considered a toxic behavior, is that there were so many great reviews. So many great reviews.
Thank you.
And then, thank you so much. Like, I, like, to not only listen to the podcast, but then to go out of your way to rate the show means the world to us. And obviously that really helps with our ratings and our viewership listenership.
And just for us to like know what we're doing good and what we're, you know, what we can work on.
Yeah. So it's like, for us, I feel like all of those, like I would say it's a toxic behavior because we got so many great reviews and then I fixated on the 3. And I think it's important. Yeah, it is. But it's also like, I feel like it's important to get to this place where I can acknowledge, yes, there's truth in what they're saying, because so much of me wanted to just shut down and be like, no, fuck you, like, I'm just gonna talk because it's my podcast. But at the end of the day, like, but at the end of the day, like, there's truth in it, and it hurts and it sucks, but like, the truth always hurts, and it's beneficial to my growth. And so thank you for the people that wrote that. And I mean, the thing is, it wasn't even like flat out rude. It was like, this is a great podcast, there's great potential, but Nina really interrupts Dejan all the time. So yeah, anyways, let's talk about our other toxic behaviors since we're on this topic. I'll let you take it away, so that it's not 90% me. That was another review.
Yeah, that's the other thing, right? Well, you know what, CSC, I feel like, is it a toxic behavior? But I feel like a lot of times I do also have like that imposter syndrome where I feel like I don't really have anything important to say. So a lot of times when, I listen to you and I'm like, oh my God, like everything she's saying is amazing. And when it comes to quote unquote like my turn to speak, I feel like I can like start saying something and then you get that imposter syndrome kicking in and then you're like, what am I even talking about? Like, what am I even saying? And then you start talking in circles and then you point out like, damn, you're talking in circles. And then I'm like, oh fuck, what's going on, right? So that's like a hard habit and thing that I need to break. So is that really a toxic thing? I don't know. I think that's just something that's within my own head. And so that's like a thing that I need to break. But
I have a question for you.
For sure, hit me with it.
Is this something that you became aware of, I guess, after I came into your life? Or is this like something, because like I do a lot of talking for like social media and work, or is it something that you've always kind of been aware of?
I've always been aware of it. I mean, even in school, like I rarely ever like put my hand up to answer any questions. The only time I really spoke was to tell a joke. And like, I mean, I was like the class clown, so I never really took anything seriously. I never really contributed much in regards to like actually, I guess like I was always scared to like make myself vulnerable in that sense. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I guess like it's always something I was dealing with. And I think it hits me even more when I realize that someone that I'm around is better at something than I am. Do you know what I mean? And then that makes me even more nervous, right? So you are better than me at like speaking in public and stuff like that. And like I respect that, and I'm like in awe of it a lot of times. And yeah, it just gets like a little bit scary to like say my piece sometimes. And I kind of wait for you to save the day because I'm like, I know that Nina's going to say some like actual important shit. So,
but I think that's the thing too, is that you feeling that way, and I know that you feel that way, and I think I could have done more, and I can do more to make it a space where you feel like you can actually say things. Like, it doesn't need to sound intelligent, it doesn't need to be put together, like the same way that my teachers held space for me. Wow, I feel like I'm gonna cry, it's like so full circle. I feel like the same way that my teachers held space for me in high school to just speak your mind, whatever comes out. Like, it was messy. Like, when I first started raising my hand and speaking, like the things that I said just didn't make any sense, but like my teachers were amazing in being like, okay, what I think I'm hearing that you're saying, and they would pull out these things and it would make me feel so smart, because it's like, yeah, I didn't say it like that, but you got what I'm trying to say. So I feel like I want this podcast, I feel like I want to reinvent the podcast, but like I want it,
new beginnings.
Yeah, I want it to be a space where you can feel comfortable, because it is supposed to be a conversation between the two of us. And I mean, I guess like we're not aware of the ways that we're talking to each other in our everyday conversations, and we're hyper aware of it now because other people are listening. But yeah, it's definitely something that I can try to be more aware of moving forward. And I think like also for you don't ask me a whole lot of like digging questions, because I naturally do that for myself. Like, I like to dig deep.
Yeah.
But
well, because you're used to like talking to yourself as well.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think, like, I don't even do that in my own brain. Do you know what I mean? Like, if we think about like how our mind works, in a sense, like you have a lot of conversations with yourself, and you're able to do that. You're able to like journal as well and all those things. And I feel that I think a lot more visually, so I can't really put things down in words. It's easier for me to like just talk and have a conversation, but when it's like I have to make a point, that's where it's difficult, right? Because I feel like I'm great when it's just like natural conversation with people, where it's like there's no pressure to say something that is actually of meaning. You know what I mean? So like if I could just say dumb shit just to say dumb shit, I'm fine with that. You know what I mean? But like when I have to actually like prove a point or like have it, you know, be like intellectual in a sense, right? Like I kind of panic. You know what I mean? So, and that's, I'm not, it's hard for me to like figure out ways to like ask myself questions. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And you're really good at that, which is why you can keep going. So I'm like, I don't even have to say anything.
That's why the podcast is literally 90% me, because I just keep talking. It's what is it, like over the weekend I was doing a retreat for this mastermind that I'm a part of, and the activity is to set up 2 chairs, and then you're speaking to your higher self, and the exercise was relatively not easy, but it was intuitive for me, because I have this dialogue with myself all the time, and I'm like, Dan, you need to do this because there's so much that you can unlock within yourself and like dig deeper, and like I feel like you have so many limiting beliefs about yourself that you hold to be true, but it's like, why are those there? You know, like how do we unlock it and break it down so that we can fix them? And I'm like, you need to do this exercise. And he's like, I have no fucking idea how to even start that. And I'm like, what do you mean? And it's just like, we fundamentally think so different. And like, a part of me wants to help you to be able to do that because I feel like it's valuable. But that at the same time, I'm like, is that me putting a pressure on you and being like, this is the best way to think, this is how you should be thinking? I don't really know.
That's hard to say, because like, I mean, what is the norm? Do you know what I mean? Like, even for me, if we're gonna go back to like, I feel like as early as elementary school, where, you know, like the teacher has your teacher ever given you like a journal? Yeah, and then they go time. Like, write in this and just show me that you like
free write.
Yeah, just show me that you did something, right? And mine was always empty. The only time that it was full of stuff was like with drawings.
So I think for me, like what I want to understand about you is like where it all started from. So like, do you ever remember a time where you actually put pen to paper and like wrote or like express yourself? Because I feel like what I think is that maybe at some point you experienced somebody telling you that like it wasn't enough or that it wasn't good, because I mean just knowing like the other experiences that you've had in school.
Yeah, like in regards to trauma received from it, like I don't know. I think it's all within myself. Like I would try, maybe I tried journaling before and then I would just like throw it away. And that's the thing, like I wouldn't let anybody see it. So like when it came to, I don't know, I just felt like I was like, didn't want to do things. Like I didn't want to write. Like I just really disliked writing and I didn't want to do it. And like it was like almost an obligation in school, but a lot of times like I didn't hand in assignments and I didn't hand in things that I needed to do. So, but like I don't feel like that there was any trauma that stemmed from it. I think it was just, that was just something I personally didn't feel comfortable doing for myself. And it wasn't like, or maybe I suppressed it, but I don't think it was anything that like someone has, you know, said to me or critiqued me on. Do you know what I mean?
I guess what about also, so separate from writing, like you said earlier, that you wouldn't even raise your hand to like talk in class except to make a joke. Like, was there ever a time where you did speak out? Or is it...
in like grade 2. Not even, actually, it was like early on, like grade 2, like I kind of realized I disliked school, and it was something so small though. It was a bad teacher, but basically this one kid next to me just kept trying to say he wanted to go to the bathroom, but I think he had like a speech impediment, so it wasn't coming across to the teacher, and she didn't understand what he was asking, and I fully understood what he asked. And without putting my hand up, I was like, oh, I think he's saying that he wants to go to the bathroom. And she's like, yelled at me. She's like, only speak when your hand is up. She's like, don't speak unless I tell you can speak. And I was like, fuck. Like, that shit hit me as like a little kid. I was like, I was only trying to help. And I just like felt so angry and was like, fuck this shit. And I'm like, I'm not saying shit ever again.
Well, there you go.
There we go. We figured it out.
There we go.
But it kind of felt like, it stemmed from there, because she was also rude. She also swore a few times, like think she called me a son of a bitch at some point, and I can't fully remember why.
Damn.
But yeah, she was very heated about a lot of things, and yeah, it kind of sucked out the joy of like being a child and like being in school. You know what I mean? Because I was excited. I had a lot of my friends that, like my first friends that I met when we moved into where we grew up in Vancouver. And then yeah, we all had classes together. I was like super excited about it, but yeah, she kind of killed the mood for me especially. And then it kind of happened like as the grades, as I went to like the next year, and like different teachers, and I would get in trouble for stuff that I felt like wasn't me. Do you know what I mean? Like it was just like a misinterpretation of me. And that kind of followed me all throughout school, like throughout high school. Like I would just get in trouble for stuff that, I mean, I guess like it was like at that point too, that kind of shaped my demeanor coming into classrooms. And I think teachers picked that up and they thought like, oh, he's going to be a bad kid. And that kind of just followed me. So that was like a thing I couldn't ever shake. So I never really felt like I wanted to participate in the things that like they wanted me to do. And I just kept feeling like I was just going to do my own thing. And that kind of shaped who I am today.
Yeah.
So here you go.
Yeah, that sounds exactly like the Dejan that I know today.
Yeah.
I guess also I was going to ask you earlier, when you would draw like in your journal, because I do know like a lot of people are visual, like some people like have to doodle so that they can actually listen or like comprehend. And so like when you were drawing, like were you drawing things that like were of meaning to you, or was it just like fun doodles that, you know, like when they're like, okay, sit down and free write?
Well, I'll tell you, like I actually got in trouble in grade 3, where it was like we were all doing a pop quiz, and I just didn't know any of the answers, because it was like problem solving answers, and I don't know, I just wasn't in the mood to do it. And I think my hardest thing was like doing something on the spot when I don't feel motivated to do it. Like if I were able to take things home, then like I'd probably be able to do it. But if it was like on the spot and something that was due at the end of class, I wouldn't do it. So I ended up actually just drawing like a grasshopper with a top hat. And then I forget what he said, but he had a speech bubble and he said something funny. And then my teacher was upset because she's like, you were there for the whole time and you didn't answer one question. But I flipped the page over to the back and I saw your illustration. She's like, it's a really cute drawing. It's a great drawing. You're very talented. Like basically giving me all those compliment sandwiches, right? But yeah, she just didn't understand why I didn't. And I was just like, I wasn't in the mood to answer any questions, and I just didn't feel like I would have got it right anyways. And I just wanted to draw. So yeah.
There's so much to unpack there.
Yeah, I mean, I just love drawing too, so I just like kept drawing shit. But yeah, I mean, it's an issue. I don't know what's wrong with me. Well, but even when it was like multiple choice questions, I like didn't even circle things. Yeah. Even though like it's just multiple choice, like you could just guess. But yeah, I just like would draw. I would always draw like little things on the side, and it would just be like little like logos or like cloud thunderbolts and stuff like that. But yeah.
I mean, we talked about this in our reparenting podcast, and actually thank you so much to everyone that's like DM'd us about it, because I think that's the episode that we get the most feedback from, and how like it's really helped a lot of people kind of like look at your own like relationship with your family and with your parents and with yourself. And so thank you. But we talked about this in our reparenting one, where you got so much praise when you were younger. And I feel like kind of when we talk, and what we're talking about now, and also when we talk regularly, the thing that always comes up is that you're so afraid to try, that like if you try even a little bit, then you might fail, and that fear is so strong that it like prohibits you from kind of doing anything. It's like paralysis. And I guess like you were aware of that. We've talked about this before. Is there anything that you think that you can do knowing that to kind of help you move forward?
Yeah, I have no idea. Just doing it, I guess, right? Like just, I mean, like as literal as it is, like just facing your fears. And that's kind of what I've been learning to do since high school. And just like, you know, just trying to throw myself into, just try this shit. If it doesn't work, like what's the worst that can happen? And like, you know, I'm still battling with it to this day, but you've helped me out a lot in regards to like throwing myself out there, most notably with Saturday mornings, which was my dream to do, and I sat on that for like years. And yeah, I think that was like the opening of that door for me. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like, what are you really afraid of? Just go out and do it. I still fear like that I'll lose steam in a sense, but I'm not as afraid of like someone telling me that it's whack or it's not for them. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I think it's just really just like head on facing your fears. Also, we went quite off topic, eh?
We have. Yeah, this is toxic behaviors.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I feel like it still is in the realm of toxic behaviors, because I feel like what part of it might be for you, and I have it too, is perfectionism. And it's like that thing that people always say in like job interviews. Yeah, where it's like, what is my worst trait? But I feel like it really is so true. And I talked about this mastermind program that I'm in before, and I'll probably bring it up again a lot, probably just because it's really helped me come to realize a lot of things about myself, and the ways in which I limit myself, and then how that affects my work. Like, I originally joined it because I wanted to learn how to like scale my business and all these things, and I'm learning so much about myself. And essentially, like, perfectionism is something that affects every single person that's a part of this program that I'm in. And it doesn't matter whether you're incredibly successful, making literally like millions of dollars. Like, there are people in this program that are very successful, and the same
in regards
issues,
to like wealth.
Yeah, in regards to wealth and business.
Because success is just a myth.
Success is a myth. Listen to our last podcast.
Exactly.
Actually, not the last one, the one before that. But essentially, even though they're monetarily successful, or, you know, like successful in their business and are doing something that they love, like, that feeling of perfectionism never really goes away. And I think that for me, realizing that really helped me kind of like lift that load off, because even though you know that striving for perfection isn't real, like, it's not actually attainable, it's still something that I actively do, like, every single time I sit down at my computer. And like, I feel like I just get so hard on myself because, like, I want to control everything, you know? And a big part of what I'm trying to unlearn right now is relinquishing control. And when you just trust the process, like, trust that everything's gonna be okay, you know, that like, it's gonna be fine. Like, you worry so much about literally nothing.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, like, this is kind of like a very broad context, but I think in general, like, when it comes to Blue, when it comes to our relationship, when it comes to business, when it comes to money, like, whether or not we're gonna have enough money to pay for rent, you know, like, I think that there are things that you should obviously do to set yourself up, but past that, there's not much else you can do. And like, worrying about things and trying to make everything perfect all the time just causes me so much stress, and it actually makes it harder for me to work. And it gets to that point where I just go into paralysis.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like for you it might be a more extreme case because you don't even start it. I start it and then I'm like, okay, no, like, back up. You can't release this because it's not perfect.
But I also don't finish. Like,
yeah, you don't
if
finish,
I ever start something, I really just can't complete it.
Yeah.
And I think a thing that you told me really resonated with me, and this is before you took the courses or anything, but it was in regards to me editing your videos and how like I am a perfectionist and like keep thinking like what I can do to fix it and adjust it, as well as when I do designs for clients. You told me that if you spending this extra time on it is going to bring you more money, then do it. But if not, like, who are you doing it for and what is the point? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that kind of helped me in relation to business.
Sorry,
and to
interrupted
like
you.
yeah, in regards to like, yeah, like doing, I mean, the video, right? Like, if I'm editing your video and then I'm like nitpicking on like certain details that realistically no one else is going to notice except for me, and it's actually just wasting time. Like, if it's making my job a lot longer, then it's like, what is its worth? Do you know what I mean? Because time is literally money, and your time is worth money. So that took me a while to fully like grasp. Do you know what I mean? And yes, when you told me that kind of, I mean, it didn't fully like diminish it from happening, but it did help me quite a bit.
Well, even now you're editing a lot faster, and it still takes time, but I think
relinquishing control.
Yeah, relinquishing control. And when I first started editing, I would literally like move. Okay, so this is kind of hard if you like aren't familiar with editing videos, but essentially, like, you know, if you have like a photo on top of a video and you're like trying to put it in the corner and then you have it somewhere else and you're trying to keep it in the same exact spot, like in that corner.
In both of the clips? Or
yeah,
in the same
both
spot?
the clips. Yeah. And I'm sorry if this isn't making any sense, but basically I would like try and line it up to the exact number. Like, it has to be in the exact same spot. But realistically, anybody watching this video is going to be like, oh, it's in the right hand corner. Oh, again, it's in the right hand corner. It's not like, oh, it's a millimeter off. It's a little bit off, and therefore it's sloppy, and therefore I'm not going to like this video.
Yeah.
Like, that's the things that I would fixate
just in
on.
our head, right?
Yeah, like that's the stuff that I would fixate on, and it got to the point where I was like, it would literally take me an extra hour to go through every single clip and align everything to the, like, I don't even know if it's millimeter, but to the millimeter, so that everything was in the exact same place. And like, I think for some things, you know, you need that precision. You need attention to detail, but it's a balance, because you could literally fixate over everything. And I think like where I kind of learned that mentality is when you're in school and when you're writing like your first essay, and that's your first draft. You go back, you do a second draft. You might go back again, you do a final draft. But that final draft could still be edited. Over time, you could keep returning to that same essay and edit a million times over.
Yeah.
And get it closer and closer and closer to what you think perfection is, but perfection doesn't exist. You know, like, it's just always a work in progress.
Going.
Yeah.
You have to know when to step away from it.
Yeah. So like, that's why when it comes to things that are making you money, like when you're doing designs, and it's like you're fixating over like this small little detail, and I'm like, will the client even care? Like, probably not.
Yeah.
So I mean, for anybody out there that does, I don't know, any kind of this like freelance stuff, what I find that's really helpful is when you find yourself diving into that like rabbit hole of just like small little edits, and you're like, is this worth it? I don't know. Stop, send it to your client, and be like, hey, this is my first draft. What do you think? And your client might be like, that looks amazing. I have literally no edits.
Yeah.
In which case, stop.
Which
like,
happens.
Yeah, like stop stressing yourself out over the little things that only matter to you. And again, like this, there is a fine line, you know, like you want to give them amazing work that you're proud of. But a lot of times, like the things that you really, really, really care about because you care so much about the little details, like might not matter to somebody.
Yeah, I mean, that honestly wasted a lot of my time, like from the beginning of like my career that I put in quotations. But so we've been talking about this category, or this topic is supposed to be about toxic behaviors, but it looks like we've kind of went into like habits that aren't the best. And
that could be toxic behaviors.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, where it's like
habits that aren't the best.
Yeah. It's we're talking less, I feel, about things that are toxic and more about things that are holding us back, which I think is great. We can rename the title.
The reason why I said toxic behaviors is because online a lot of articles were saying that interrupting is a toxic behavior, which I fully see, because I don't want to get to a place where I become so used to communicating like that it drives people away. That people are like, I straight up don't want to talk to you because you're just going to talk over me. Like, what's the point?
And in regards to this podcast, we don't want you guys to fall off and stop wanting to listen because of that reason. So
if you guys have, please come back. I'm working on it. I'm better, I swear.
But I actually do just want to get back to what we were talking about, how you learn to relinquish control. And one thing that I learned with that, in regards to like us trying to do what we're doing together, for me it was about like knowing that it's okay to let other people do it. You know what I mean? Because like for me, a lot of times it's like, if I know that I can do it, or like save money by like having me do it, then I'll be like, yeah, it's fine, I can do it. And then that usually turns out to the job not being done because I've already agreed to too much. Do you know what I mean? So I've kind of learned to let go of that like fear and that toxic behavior of like, oh, like what's the point of spending money or, you know, giving it to somebody else when I can design that, or I can install those tiles, or, you know, like I can, you know, make this, make that, or whatever it is. So
yeah, it's like piling on way too much, and it's like taking on more than you can handle. And that does get toxic to a point, because I mean, you're really only hurting yourself. And I think that the reason why we're both like that, and I think a lot of people are like this, because like I feel like we were raised as very frugal, and very like DIY, do it yourself. Like my parents were very much like, why would you pay for something if you could make it yourself? And that's why I learned how to sew. Like I made a lot of my clothes, and like I would DIY everything when I was younger. And obviously I had time to do that. But now we're at a point in our life, and when it comes to business, like I think, you know, when it comes to home stuff, that's different. Like, you know, we'll tile our stuff, we'll like paint it ourselves. Like for home things and personal things, then it kind of makes more sense to DIY. But when you're applying that mentality to work, that's when it gets really difficult, because like if like that saying, time is money, what that basically means is that like in the time that it takes you to fixate on something or to do something that doesn't make you more income, you could have been doing something else that actually is making you more income.
Yeah.
So like,
and
I
you
feel
give
like,
someone else a job
yeah,
too.
and you hire other people. Like I think like this is coming up for you because like I am currently in a season, not even a season, like this is the first time ever where I'm like full on hiring people. And maybe we can do another podcast episode on this because it is a lot to dive into right now. But I am hiring people, I'm growing my team, and it's really scary. But honestly, like for the most part, like I think the overwhelming emotion that I feel is excitement and relief, because I've been taking on so much that I've just become so used to it. And now I'm finally like, okay, I can get help, and we are in a place financially where I think it's okay. I'm pretty sure that we're gonna be okay. But the thing is, like, also you have to spend money to make money. And I always feel weary whenever I say things like this, because I'm like, don't take me the wrong way. Like you have to be smart about where you're putting your money. But to be able to provide jobs for other people, like to be able to hire my friends is literally the most fulfilling feeling.
Yeah.
And I feel like now I'm saying things that I want to save for a future podcast, so I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, relinquishing control and being able to step back and say, you know what, I'm not the best person for this job. Let's bring on somebody else.
And that's where like what we were talking about earlier, where I always had that fear, if we're gonna jump back to like me in elementary school and stuff, like whereas like if someone was better than me at something, like I either wouldn't try or I would just let it really get to me. You know what I mean? So that's the other thing, is like understanding that I am not the best person for this job, and I should just like first step, like admit that like this person can design this better than I can. So why would I try and like take this on? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, okay, the way you just phrased that was very like bringing yourself down, but
no.
I think it's not.
That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay. What are you trying to say?
What I'm trying to say is not necessarily that, you know, I'm not as good as this person, but it's just about understanding that like I'm not in a position to like really work on it right now, and it's not necessarily in my style or like whatever it may be. It's just realizing that like instead of having that like denial or like that like defensiveness where you're like, no, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna prove it to myself that I can do it in like a competitive way, as opposed to like I'm wearing myself thin. You know what I mean? So it's like and giving another person opportunity who, you know, you do believe is gonna do a great job on it. So that's where like I've kind of learned to delegate in that way, where it's like stop trying to say that I can do this and then it necessarily never coming out the way I want it to, because A, I don't have enough time, and B, it's like out of like my, I guess like what
area
I'm
of
used
expertise.
to. Yeah, area of expertise.
This is why
exactly.
I interrupt Dejan. No, but I think that's another thing too, is that it gives you time to do the things you're actually good at. Like that's the main point. Like it's not like, okay, like I'm not good at any of this stuff, delegate. It's, I mean, that might be part of it, but it's also, let me refocus my energy on something that I am good at. And like I think that a lot of this is coming up as well because we're in a very slow transition to like Dejan being like very much full-time like dad,
which is what I want to be,
and which is what you want to be. And so that's why like whenever things come up where you're trying to take on too much, I'm like, but why are you saying that this is what you want and yet you're showing me something else? You know, like if you want to be full-time dad, like relinquish control, you know, like step back from the things that are taking you away from that. And so then that's where it gets confusing for me, and I'm always trying to like recenter you and be like, hey, what is it that you truly want? And we've been communicating so much lately because I'm always checking in. I'm like, are you okay? Are you happy? Like, are you like, you know, satisfied with like the life that we have right now? And I just feel like this is so far out of our realm, this transition, and, you know, having a baby. that like I just want to make sure that you're okay and that you're happy.
Just so the listeners know, I'm very content and very happy and super, super excited for like everything that's about to like, everything that we're doing. Like I'm just really excited for it, and I'm excited to like be there for our baby and like watch him grow up and you know, have a huge part in that, you know what I mean? And just be able to just see everything that we're doing and like be a part of it in a sense. I don't know if anything that I said truly makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm just
at the end of the day,
very
like,
excited.
Yeah, it comes back to how it's like, you know, okay, so say it's graphic design, like there might be a better graphic designer out there for the job, but you're the best father for Blue. You know? So like that's what it comes down to for me. Like when you're trying to think about your priorities, like who's the best person for the job? You know, if it's you, that's great. If it's somebody else, delegate. Wow.
And do I even have time to do it?
If it's you, that's great. If it's someone else, delegate.
Oh, ooh. Yo, you should be a rapper.
Ooh.
What are you even wasting your time?
Hot fire.
Bars.
Yeah.
Just straight bars.
So I mean I think that's a good place to end, because I feel like we could honestly, I think we're starting to delve into a very different topic right now, but I still do want to make like a full podcast episode about kind of this season that we're in right now. You can follow us at Neens Deens. I am your girl Neens.
And I'm Dejan's Day Off.
And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.